Welcome. The families of Elizabeth and Stan thank all of you for being here today to honor Elizabeth. As we begin, please make sure your phones and devices are set in a mode that will not disturb the service today. And then after the service, Elizabeth and Stan's families invite you to a reception in the central gallery where Elizabeth's favorite music and favorite food and favorite drinks will be on offer, including pigs in a blanket and champagne. So you know Elizabeth wants you to enjoy that. Elizabeth. January 12th, 1965 to June 9th, 2018. That's fewer than 20,000 days, and Elizabeth only lived about 12,000 days as an adult. And yet, in those days, she touched thousands of lives. Her family, her friends, her students' parents, the art world, the theater community, both on stage and behind it, and through the many creative projects that she spearheaded throughout this area. Elizabeth bonded with all generations and all demographics. And as she wrote in her own words last year, quote, "We are forever tied together with love." Today we're going to hear what a lasting difference Elizabeth made in so many lives. And as hurt as we are, we're here to celebrate, and we're here to remember Elizabeth. But let's be honest, we really don't need any help to remember Elizabeth. We will never forget her and her energy and her spirit, her love of the arts, her love of teaching, her love of family and friends, her caring for people she had just met, her need for privacy, and her drive to connect. Some of Elizabeth's essence resides in all of us. I will think of her again and again, and of what she means to me and taught me the rest of my life. Before we begin, I have just two thoughts and one memory to share. First, whenever you spoke to Elizabeth, she listened with her whole spirit. I can close my eyes right now and I can see her blue eyes looking at me and her smile, and I feel her whole body listening to me as I explain some mundane problem to her. And she'll grow her smile and respond so thoughtfully and so lovingly. We should all aim to listen as well as Elizabeth did. And Elizabeth was an amazing listener because she was in touch with her feelings. She knew love meant being vulnerable, and she embraced it and the risks that it had. She knew when she had challenges to overcome, and she would get help if she needed it. If Elizabeth could materialize before you right now, she would look directly into your eyes. She would hear what you have to say. She would thoughtfully respond, and she would make you feel better. She might say, "I really hear that you're struggling right now. Do you have a good therapist?" Finally, 2 months ago at our home, my wife and I were so honored to serve Elizabeth one of her favorite drinks, a vodka martini with a twist. Before she took a sip, she said in her bright, energetic voice that we all know, "You know, guys, I hope I can live longer, but really, I am so grateful already. I've had everything I dreamed of. I married the love of my life. I have amazing, incredible children. I've traveled. I've had work that I love. I have a beautiful home, incredible friends, and on she went. But she ended it all with, I am already so grateful. And she said this with real happiness and gratitude, not even a hint of sadness. My wife and I will never forget that moment. Elizabeth lived a beautiful life. She should have had another 7,300 days to get to at least her expected lifespan. But in the days she did have, she lived far more than that. We're here together today to celebrate that and to give our own voices to the power of Elizabeth's life. We begin with one of Elizabeth's dearest and oldest friends, Lisa Barr, singing a song that they both loved, the type of music they would sing together, with Rex Doherty playing the guitar. And Lisa wanted me to tell you that Elizabeth and she knew each other since 1922.
So far away, doesn't anybody stay in one place anymore? It would be so fine to see your face at my door, but it doesn't help to know you're just time away. Long ago I reached for you and there you stood. Holding you again could only do me good. How I wish I could, but you're so far away. One more song about moving along the highway. Can't say much of anything that's new. If I could only work this life out my way, I'd rather spend it being close to you. But you're so far away. Doesn't anybody stay in one place anymore? It would be so fine to see your face at my door, but it doesn't help to know you're so far away. Yeah, yeah, you're so far away. Traveling around sure gets me down and lonely. Nothing else to do but close my mind. I sure hope the road don't come to own me. There's so many dreams I've yet to find. But you're so far away. Doesn't anybody stay in one place anymore? It would be so fine to see your face at my door, but it doesn't help to know you're so far away. Yeah, yeah, you're so far away. Hey, you're so far away. Sorry, sniffling.
It's a good thing I didn't sing. We now begin our remembrances from Elizabeth's side of the family. First to speak, Elizabeth's stepfather, Danny, will share his remembrances, and Danny is also speaking on behalf of Elizabeth's mother, Barbara. Second, Elizabeth's younger brother, Tony, will share his thoughts and read a poem. Elizabeth and Tony were close in such a way that they frequently, for long stretches of time, would speak on the phone every day. And third, we'll hear from Elizabeth's father, Tom, to share his lifelong remembrance of his daughter. Elizabeth and Tom shared a special father-daughter bond over the Chicago Bears and the Washington Caps. They would watch every game together if they could. Danny?
Elizabeth, you were a comet. You were a meteor. You flew across our skies for 53 years, and you were on fire. Everything you did was on fire. You did everything in an oversized way, outsized way. You had outsized passions. You had outsized love for your family and your friends, your students. You loved your students, and you loved the homeless community that worked with you. And your smile was on fire. Most of us in this room have felt uplifted by that Elizabeth smile. And you loved comedy, and you were brilliant at it, that perfect timing you had. And it suddenly hit me, just since you've died, that maybe one reason you embraced comedy as much as you did was because of the tragedies in your life. 2 of your children died before they were born. You had melanoma young. And the doctors all said, oh, you're going to be fine. But we knew that you never totally believed it. And so I think that's one reason. You were determined even more to make audiences laugh. And when you got your horrible, mind-blowing diagnosis, you had outsized optimism that you'd be cured. One of my most inspiring memories of you, and this might sound weird, one of my most inspiring memories of you is the night you had your emergency surgery on a large tumor in your frontal lobe. You all know what a ghastly operation that is. And just before they came to wheel you into the operating room, your mom and I tried to tell you gently, after the surgery, many people come out of it confused. They hallucinate. They're disoriented, sometimes for days or weeks. And we watched them wheel you into the emergency room, and then we all waited and were there when they brought you back from recovery, waiting to hear your first garbled, hallucinatory words. And what did Elizabeth Kitsos Kang say? She said, Stan, did you send that email I asked you to today? And he said, baby, I'm sorry, I was so busy with the hospital and everything. She said, dude, please, I want you to send it today. And after that, you worked too hard. You rehearsed plays too hard. You visited with family and friends too hard. You lived too hard for somebody with a horrible disease. But of course, we all knew you would, because that was Elizabeth. And Stan and Jamie and Eli, I just want to leave you with one thought. You guys have dealt with this nightmare with more grace than anybody has a right to imagine. And that's one of the greatest gifts your wife and your mother left you, the strength to keep on living.
So, I'm going to read a poem But before that, I'm going to share a few words. Even though they said I'm supposed to keep it under 3 minutes, I might go over that, but that's okay. Everyone called Elizabeth, Elizabeth, but for me, I called her Lizzie, and she hated that. But I didn't care. And she'd always call me Tony Baloney. That was our names for each other. I spoke to my sister almost every day, sometimes twice a day. And growing up, she didn't like that. I remember going into her room in the morning when I was younger and asking her, hey, do you want to get up and help me make some breakfast, go out and play? Her thing would be, get out of my room. I'm not getting up until noon. You know the rules, not until noon. She was my best friend. I mean, I could tell her anything, and she could tell me anything. And every time till this day, I have her number on my phone, and I wish I could call her and talk to her. But I do it in my own way. So let me read this poem. Death is nothing at all. It does not count. I have only slipped away into the next room. Nothing has happened. Everything remains exactly as it was. I am I, and you are you, in the old life that we lived so fondly together, untouched, unchanged. Whatever we were to each other, that we are still. Call me by the unfamiliar name. Speak of me in the easy way which you always used. Put no difference into your tone. Wear no force of sorrow. Laugh as we always laughed at the little jokes that we enjoyed together. Play, smile, think of me. Let my name be ever the household word that always was. Let it be spoken without an effort, without a ghost of a shadow upon it. Life means all that ever meant. It is the same that it always was. Why should it be out of mind because I'm out of sight? I am but waiting for you, somewhere near, just around the corner. All is well, nothing is hurt, nothing is lost. One brief moment, all will be as it was before. How we shall laugh at the trouble of parting when we meet again, and we will meet again.
Januaries in Chicago are always very bitterly cold, icy, snowy. We all know that. That's not a revelation, but it does bring me back to the time I walked across the icy, snowy parking lot of Evanston Hospital just outside of Chicago to be with Barbara and to be there when our first child was born. The days of maternity care back then and of basically not allowing husbands was rapid. And I couldn't get in to see her very often, but I arrived on January 11th because that was supposed to be the day that the baby would come. And I practiced chain smoking a lot in the the father's waiting room and how to drink coffee. Finally, at 2:30 in the morning on the 12th, the doctor came out and extended his hand and he said, "Congratulations, you are the proud father of a beautiful baby girl." So in those days, since you were not in the room during the birth, you didn't really know what went on, you had two questions. How is the baby and how is the mother? And so I said what was expected. Does she have 5 toes on each foot and 5 fingers on each hand? And is she healthy? And how's her heart? And the doctor answered all those questions. She was in very good health. He failed to mention that she had a pretty good set of lungs and a rather distinctive voice. Barbara, on the other hand, was doing fine, according to the doctor. And he said, when you go in and see her and you hold on to the baby, don't stay very long because Barbara's quite tired. Well, I guess Barbara was in labor with Elizabeth for 26 hours. And she's still here to be with us. I have always interpreted that long later period as Elizabeth's notification to her parents that she was going to operate pretty much on her own schedule, on her own agenda, make her own decisions. Now, parents like me will make up these wild theories about why babies do certain things or why they don't do certain things. However, I think that Elizabeth's subsequent behavior over the next 53 years indicated a certain level of independence that she was going to exert, and so I think I was probably right. In her special way, Elizabeth gave us great joy. There's a couple of snapshots. Birthday number 1, standing next to a pink cake that Barbara had made, sitting on a small table. 1 year old. Snapshot number 2, Elizabeth walking through that cake as it fell to the floor on the rug and walking through the house with the pink frosting all over the place. And basically saying, hey guys, I'm 1 year old. In her formative years, she was always putting on skits, make-believe plays, singing, dancing. I don't think there was a school play or a show for which she did not audition. She was always on, a hoot with an infectious sense of humor, deeply interested in virtually anything and everything and everyone that came across her cognitive screen, and she was passionate about most. Jeff alluded to this in his opening remarks. Elizabeth had a practice of extending her hand. The first time you met her, for those of you who can remember, she would extend her hand, she would look you directly in the eye with her baby blues, she would look and keep her attention on you, and she would ask about you. And even if you were having a bad time and dealing with a tough issue, Elizabeth was always good to talk with and get advice. In the bargain, you might very well hear what was going on in her life, but that was part of the deal with Elizabeth. She also had a way with words. To put it politely, she liked to use a lot of them. If you looked up the word loquacious in the American Heritage Dictionary, there's Elizabeth's picture, sort of. If you stood next to her at the Metro or you sat next to her at dinner, you would be engaged, fully engaged for the evening. In that petite body, there lived a giant of a woman with warmth, compassion, strength, and empathy, and an enormous reservoir of talent that I do not think was ever fully tapped. She would act, produce, she would direct, she would write, she would rewrite, and she would hold auditions, cast and rehearsals. And she would innovate. Her work using the theater to foster intergenerational understanding can be seen and appreciated in her Creative Age and Popular Devising Hope programs, which I hope will continue. Elizabeth is also passionate about politics, and we had endless discussions about that. That's part of our large family, is politics. But often, the adhesive that holds certain family members together sometimes seems trivial. For Elizabeth and me, it was sports. Jeff alluded to that, which would transcend more serious issues. She became more maniacal than I ever was on behalf of the Chicago Bears, which I didn't think was possible, and she adopted the Caps. I have not yet figured out how I'm going to watch football or hockey this coming season without Elizabeth next to me, either physically or electronically. She said to me and to many in the recent months, when she was in most pain and dealing with what seemed to be the inevitable, I want to live long enough to see the Caps win the Stanley Cup. And she did. And I remember for the first 3 series, she was lucid, she was awake, she was watching television. She and I would text each other about each score, and she was with her family watching it. In the final series that won the cup for the Caps, she started to deteriorate more quickly. And I don't think the last couple of games she was quite on top of what was going on the screen. But when the Caps won, and I called, and I sent a message to Stan and to Jamie and to Eli. She had been watching the television. Her eyes were not awake, but when they told her that they won the cup, she did a fist bump for the cup. And then she laid back down. Stan put her arms around her, and she closed her eyes for some more sleep, and she smiled. First smile, I think, in a number of days. That was a moment. I want to close by making a direct appeal, a direct message from me to my badass daughter. It occurred to me I don't have a nickname like Tony did for Elizabeth. I always called her Elizabeth. I just never had one. But when she was a toddler, her maternal grandfather, Barbara's father, Rocky, dropped a name on her one day when he walked by her in the yard of his house. He looked down at her and playing with dolls and said in a deep voice, "What are you doing, Little Bit?" And Little Bit giggled and told him that what she was doing, but that nickname only held for him. But I'm going to borrow it. Little Bit, I love you. I've always loved you. From that bitterly cold winter morning in Chicago a long time ago to this moment now. I know I will love you for as long as I live. I think about you every day. Last Sunday, Father's Day, was just really rough. Not because I did not hear from you, but because I knew I never would. I miss you so much. Too much, maybe. What are you doing, Little Bit? What are you doing?
Perhaps the most amazing young woman in the room is about to stand up and sing "I Won't Give Up." When Jamie first sang this song at her junior cabaret, Elizabeth leaned over to Stan and said, "I think this song is for you." Today, Jamie sings it again as a gift from Elizabeth and herself to Stan.
When I look into your eyes, it's like watching the night sky or a beautiful sunrise. Well, there's so much they hold, and just like them old stars, I see that you've come so far to be right where you are. How old is your soul? Well, I won't give up on us, even if the skies get rough. I'm giving you all my love. I'm still looking up. And when you're needing your space to do some navigating, I'll be here patiently waiting to see what you find. 'Cause even the stars, they burn. Some even fall to the earth. And we got a lot to learn, but I know we're worth it. No, I won't give up. I don't wanna be someone who walks away so easily. I'm here to stay and make the difference that I can make. Our differences, they do a lot to teach us how to use the tools and gifts we got. Yeah, we got a lot at stake. And in the end, you're still my friend. At least we didn't turn for us to work. We didn't break, we didn't burn. We had to learn how to bend without the world caving in. I had to learn what I got and what I'm not and who I am. I won't give up on us, even if the skies get rough. I'm giving you all my love. I'm still looking up. I'm still looking up. I won't give up on us, even if the skies get rough. I'm giving you all my love, 'cause God knows we're worth it.
Now we hear from three of Elizabeth's oldest friends. Tom.
Thank you, Jeff. And thanks a lot, Jamie, because you totally destroyed me, of course. I've seen every performance she's ever given since she was 6 years old. And okay. Elizabeth taught the same way she lived, with her eyes and ears wide open, attuned to every student, every collaborator, every story. She would probably say that I'm more from the mouth wide open school. So at the first Shakespeare camp we co-directed exactly 20 years ago this month, we found each other to be an acquired taste. And that forced Stan into the role of dad, which I would apologize for, but I like to think it gave him practice, for being the spectacular father you see before you today. I believe she might have suggested once or twice that I talk just a little less. I might have accused her of being too sensitive. I understand now that sensitivity was actually her superpower. It's the reason that all of her work was so raw and so immediate. If you ever saw her on stage, you know what I'm talking about. It seems like we always cast her as Hermia when we went into schools because, fierce, adorable, put her in your pocket, but then she turns out to be a little trilogy of terror doll, just jumping on your head. But the brilliant thing was that she was like Helena in a Hermia's body. Always questioning, too smart to be certain of anything, so that the audience was living with her on the edge of every moment, right there with her in every character she played. She founded ETC so that we could teach more and change kids' lives with theater, but for years, she kept the company thriving by playing the role of administrator, making those opportunities possible for the rest of us by keeping us grounded in reality. But she listened to us and understood us because she was one of us. Basically, she was a visionary artist that got cast as a managing director because that was the role we most needed her to play. And of course, she never stopped teaching. She originated ETC's legendary McKinley musical residency. Anyone? And thank you. It's changed, thousands of kids into techies and actors through the years. And she taught everyone from 3-year-olds with Sam all the way up to a 103-year-old lady named Frida with me. And when Elizabeth joined me to teach seniors at Creative Age, alchemy happened. She transformed the program from this slow burn readers theater to this super immediate sacred space for truth-telling, and that ended up changing both of our lives as well as the students. The secret ingredient she introduced was the teacher shutting up and listening. We read a 5-minute sliver of Aeschylus or Almost Maine, and then Elizabeth would ask the most honest question, like, have you ever been betrayed? And the dam would break, and these students would release these incredibly personal oral histories of their lives and the whole world. I was awestruck, and Elizabeth was humbled too, definitely, by what they shared, which she then transmuted into new original scripts, and they performed them. And she was just getting started. She added GW playwriting students to the mix, and that sparked these astonishing group-devised works, and I thought that program was her masterpiece, but then just a couple years ago, she created Devising Hope, and she applied all her discoveries and superpowers to build a bridge between a group of creative adults who were experiencing homelessness and a group of teenage writers and actors who were experiencing being teenagers. And she got them listening to each other, and then together they built not only these unforgettable works of theater, but really a new community that you felt a part of when you went to see them perform. So she turned people into artists, and she sometimes turned artists into people. And everyone she worked with learned to hold our work to that high a bar and to ask ourselves, is my work as a teacher or an artist building a community? Is it giving someone a voice? Is it changing someone's life? HB was so fortunate that our students got to work with her. Her impact there will be rippling out for years to come. Our season closer next year will be a student-directed devised work about transitions, and an idea entirely inspired by Devising Hope. And nothing's better than the fact that Jamie was part of Devising Hope this year. Because getting to teach your own kids is probably the best gift that Elizabeth and Stan gave me, and so many of us on the ETC staff. So I'm so glad she got to experience that. And many of us also got the gift of teaching Elizabeth and Stan's kids. Eli kicked ass as Philip the Bastard last fall. Woo! I like to think of Eli as the subtle sheep of the Kitsos-Kang theater dynasty. But just like his mom, when he's on stage, you can't take your eyes off him. And then there's Jamie. For anyone who feels regret at not getting to see Elizabeth enough on stage, just go see Jamie perform. Jamie carries Elizabeth's same fierce, resilient spark, the same off-kilter comedy, and the same unmistakable empathy. And she and Eli radiate the love they were raised with, on stage and off, and we see them carry it forward to others every day. So in her students, in her colleagues, and especially in her kids, Elizabeth's eyes, ears, mind, and heart are still wide open. Thanks.
If you asked Elizabeth to list her favorite books, The Road Less Traveled would be at the top of the list. She read it first when she was in her early 20s, and by the time I met her a few years later, she was already on her third reading of it. The Road Less Traveled was a blueprint for Elizabeth, a primer on how to love, grow, forgive, listen, be a true partner, raise children who feel valued. In short, how to be fully alive. She returned to the book again and again, underlining here, bracketing there, scribbling notes in the margins, and though she could not have possibly foreseen it, the ideas that resonated with her so strongly in her search for healing and personal growth would today offer all of us solace. I felt privileged to spend time with Elizabeth's own copy of the book this week as we determined what to read today. It was a bittersweet visit with my old friend. And as always, she was wise enough to guide me. What follows is a section of the book she herself underlined during one of her early readings of the book, and now a reading literally from the Book of Elizabeth. Throughout the whole of life, one must continue to learn to live, said Seneca 2 millennia ago. And what will amaze you even more, throughout life, one must learn to die. It is also clear that the farther one travels on the journey of life, the more births one will experience, and thus, the more deaths. The more joy, the more pain. If you move out to another human being, there is always the risk that that person will move away from you, leaving you more painfully alone than you were before. Love anything that lives, a person, a pet, a plant, and it will die. Trust anybody and you may be hurt. Depend on anyone and that one may let you down. The price of love is pain. If someone is determined not to risk pain, then such a person must do without many things: having children, getting married, the ecstasy of sex, the hope of ambition, friendship. All that makes life alive, meaningful, and significant. Move out or grow in any dimension, and pain as well as joy will be a reward. A full life will be full of pain. But the only alternative is not to be fully alive or not to live at all. At 23, Elizabeth knew that she needed to be brave to claim the life that she wanted. And at 53, she urges us to be the same. Brave.
At Elizabeth and Stan's infamous thunderstorm wedding, how many brides can boast of Pepco's attendance? The Buddhist officiant bound Elizabeth and Stan together in circles of people, an ever-widening movement from the intimate to the familial, to the friends, to the community, and out into the universe. A beautiful and powerful idea about circles that I will now borrow in reverse. In this first circle, I want to talk about Elizabeth the actor. That was how I first knew her when we were at UVA together. And then in DC, when she was the lead in my first 4 plays, she was my muse. What worked about Lizzie on stage always was her comic timing, an unteachable skill, you're either born with it or you aren't, coupled with her vulnerability. Like all the best comics, there was pain under the funny. I feel so much loss for those of you who never got to see her slay it on the stage. She had incandescence and longing and daring, lightning in a bottle. Someone asked me recently if Elizabeth missed acting because she taught so much. Of course she did, but teaching was her calling. She and I talk about it all the time in our little shared office, how lucky we both felt to be in the classroom, how the classroom was a sacred space, another circle. Elizabeth was not just a good teacher or a great one. She was life-changing, and not just for one person or for 2 or for 3, but for hundreds. And her genius for directing, yet another circle, was driven by her energy and focus and commitment and humor. She used her own hard-earned personal growth as fodder for her evolution and always met people where they were. When you talked to her, you were the only person in the room. Our students told Elizabeth everything. Seriously. She always knew who was dating whom, who's having a spat. She always knew the subtext. But she didn't invite these confidences. People just came to her with them. So as we circle down in this extended metaphor, we move to Elizabeth the friend. I was the first of our group of friends to have children, and here is a testament to Lizzie's devotion. She was the first person, except for nurses, to hold my twins at the hospital. She beat my mother. Elizabeth had a lifetime of serious dedication to friends, the family she made and deserved. Another circle. Of course, we were all stand-ins for the real family, the next circle, the most intimate and powerful, the family she and Stan made together. Elizabeth had lost. She and Stan lost 2 babies, let's not forget. But Elizabeth was blessed with a partner who unfailingly put her happiness first, always first. Stan, please know how much we all love you and how you have shown us all the ideal in your love and devotion. And also, don't cry because you're next up after Jamie Jen. Jamie's arrival was a thing of beauty. Eli's arrival was a treasure. Lizzie's children meant quite literally everything to her, everything. We talked about it all the time, the perfect circle. In this time of transition and crisis, I have little to offer Eli and JJ in the way of comfort or advice, except for this one thing. Your mother, whether you realize it or not, has given you the strength and the tools and the heart and the power to heal from the loss of her. It doesn't feel like it now, I know. But she has done that for you. I promise that you will feel her contributions over and over again, and her values, which are braided into your hearts and consciences, they will guide you. I don't know much in this world, but I do know that. Her life challenges made her profoundly transparent to all of us and very connected to the pain of other people in an incredible way. I still cannot get over the respect I have for her hard work on herself. This was a life skill that turned her into a woman who took the emotional steering wheel. She took charge of her own life, and in doing so made everyone else around her clearer, stronger, and more actualized. Elizabeth and I had a little ritual, and I know I'm not the only one she said this to. Whenever we said goodbye, I always said, "I love you," and she always said, "I love you more." And she did. She loved me more. She loved everyone more. It is surreal that I'm standing here before you wonderful admirers of my friend of over 30 years, and I'm responsible for some sort of summation of her life, a life that was deeply felt, purpose-filled, and intense. She lived with the volume and the energy turned all the way up. She had no regrets there. Elizabeth was never quiet, unless she was listening. Elizabeth was always busy, unless someone needed help. Elizabeth was always talking, unless someone needed silence. She was exuberant, committed, connected, vibrant, brave in her acting, brave in her truth, brave in her teaching, brave in her causes, brave, living out loud. But most importantly and profoundly, she was the embodiment of selfless love. She loved everyone more.
Elizabeth and Stan raised amazing children. I'm honored to welcome Eli to speak to you. And Jamie.
Oh, I had a joke that mine was double-spaced, but it's still really short compared to like... Okay. So a man named David Foster Wallace was a genius. He had a genius IQ and wrote genius books. He has one quote that I cannot get over. He basically says that the psychotically depressed person doesn't suddenly think death is appealing. It's the terror of the agony that they are in. He compared it to a person jumping from a burning high-rise. At some point, the falling seems a little better than the flames on their backs. He says it's not desiring the fall, it's the terror of the flames. The people on the sidewalk below can never understand unless they've been there themselves. How this relates to me, though. I too felt as if the darkness I was in could never be cleared. It was in the seconds before my mother passed that it dawned upon me. It wasn't that others didn't understand, it was that they were fighting a different battle. Some as brothers, students, mothers, fathers, friends, kids, and even a spouse. Not to try and turn this into a thing where I idolized Wallace, but he also said, everything I've ever let go of, has claw marks on it. My mother had so much influence on the students that passed through her classes and learned who she was. Some of them became extremely close to the point where she talked to them out of class often and learned about their personal lives. To me, she shaped me and threw lessons at me which I could barely understand, to be honest. But now, years later, I understand them and wish I could have learned more. One thing my dad did was always ask me about girls. To get him to stop because it was really annoying. I would tell him a tiny nugget of information. When he'd tell my mom about what I told him, she'd be upset that I didn't tell her first. Then she'd come to me, and I'd not only tell her who I liked, but ask her what I could do about it. Of course, that process didn't stop, and my dad still asks, but now I tell him everything because that process can't go any further when a piece of the puzzle is missing. Oh, side note, I want to get a tattoo that says 6/9/18 and 443, but he won't let me get a tattoo. Yeah. Yeah. My mother fought the flames of cancer for about 18 months. She didn't let them affect who she was, a mother. When she had bad days, I came home and I knew that I could drop my bag and come into her embrace. I try to carry her with me, and I'm glad that she can come with me wherever I go. Right after she died, my sister and I sort of raided her jewelry spot to find something we liked. I took 2 rings and a necklace that says EKK Fearless. This is probably the first time in many days I've taken it off. What was odd that the day that she passed, when I had my hand in hers, I lost circulation because the hospice bed was a little taller. And I thought, if I let go, will she let go as well? With that in my mind, I let the feeling of piercing needles stay because I wanted to do everything and anything in my power to have her stay. I hate not being able to help someone, and that feeling never left me in those 18 months. I want to thank everyone, those who helped and those who gave kind words when they couldn't find a tangible way to. I would give up anything and everything for her back. I miss her, and I haven't stopped loving her. Thank you for your time.
Whenever I struggled to find my words, my mom was always there. When I was fighting with a friend and didn't know how to resolve it, I asked my mom for help. When I was writing my college application essays and couldn't quite find the right words to tell my story, I asked my mom for help. When I didn't know how to tell the cute boy at school that I liked him, I asked my mom for help. Whether it was something big or small, and no matter what time of day or night, my mom acted as my sounding board for ideas, my best friend, and my biggest supporter. That's part of the reason why, standing before you today, I'm finding it hard to adequately express all that she was to me. I am again struggling to find my words, but this time I know I have to find them on my own. Luckily, I got to spend 18 years of my life learning from her. She not only helped shape me into who I am today, but also continues to inspire me as I think about who I aim to become. From a young age, I watched the way she treated those around her and saw the way she seemed to care deeply about everyone, whether it was her friends, her students, or the checkout clerks at the grocery store. My mom always made others feel respected and loved. She constantly put others' needs above her own. I watched her come home exhausted from working multiple jobs, but still cook dinner for the family, mediate our stupid arguments, and ask everyone how their day was. I saw her take phone calls after hours with students who needed help with an assignment, bring Gatorade out to garbage men on a hot day, and give hours on end to friends and family who needed someone to talk to. For many, she was a confidant, a shoulder to cry on, and a loyal friend. This was something I always knew and admired about her. But lately, as I've been reading all the stories and comments people have been writing about her on Facebook, I have come to more fully understand how much she did for others. Every time I read another story about her, I am awed at how she was able to reach so many people in only 53 short years. It seemed that she touched the life of every person she knew in some way. She truly was a gift to this world, compassionate, empathetic, selfless. I wish I had time to share all the kind messages my family has gotten in recent weeks and all the things I've learned about her. Although I didn't realize the true reaches of her gifts, I am not surprised to learn that she made everyone feel as loved as she made me feel. Many of the stories I've read have come from her students. In her 20-plus years of teaching, she had hundreds of students, yet so many talk about the special relationships they had with her. I was able to experience her gift for teaching firsthand when I did a program called Devising Hope, and my mom became my teacher. Devising Hope is a program with ETC where high school students and homeless adults from the DC area meet once a week for a few months and talk about a lot of different topics like love, hopes, grief, misconceptions, and more. And from these conversations, we devise theater pieces and then perform them for an audience at the end of the program. My mom was able to get a group with so many differences to bond and to find common ground. Over time, I formed deep friendships with the other participants and learned so much about myself, about homelessness, and about life in general. I truly believe that program would not have been the same without her at its head. She taught, in a way I imagine she taught all of her classes, with patience yet firmness. She brought such a positive energy to every class. She made us feel safe and pushed us to open up about our hardships while celebrating our successes, and every class made us laugh. And while it's not always fun to have your mom be your teacher, I feel lucky to have been her student because I feel like I got a glimpse of what all those hundreds of GW kids write us about. Teaching was a joy for her, and she was damn good at it. It gives me hope to know that all those she taught have part of her with them, and that through her students, she will have a lasting effect on her community. As a mother, she was just the same. She was my biggest cheerleader, always so proud and ready to brag about my accomplishments to anyone who would listen. She was my friend when I needed one, but still was tough on me and made sure that above all, I was always polite, honest, and grateful. She was also my free acting coach and helped me prepare for many auditions. And when some of those auditions didn't go so well, she was also my biggest supporter as well. This past year, I had a rough experience when I was put in the ensemble for a senior year musical and didn't get a part which I felt I had worked towards for years. But my mom was right there to pick up the pieces, picking me up early from school and going through every emotion with me. She cried with me, got mad with me, and made me laugh when she knew I needed a break from the tears. This is just a small example at the type of mother that she was. I think she really felt everything that I felt. We had many fights. We were the classic teenage daughter and mother pairing after all, but I still knew she had my back no matter what. And even in the midst of a big blow-up, she would remind me that she always loved me. She also trusted me and made me feel I could be honest with her about everything, even when I did something wrong. She pushed me to learn from my mistakes and wasn't afraid to tell me when I made one. She truly was everything I could ask for, and I will always aspire to be like her as a mom. Well, maybe a little less naggy. I feel sad when I think about the fact that my future children will never get to meet her, but I am comforted by the thought that if I do it right, they will have in them the values that she instilled in me, and they will always have a part of her with them. As caring and giving as she was to others, she was also introverted and often tried to shield parts of herself, especially her hardships, from those around her. During her 1.5-year-long battle with cancer, she fought so hard, yet so privately. There were even times she hid from my dad, my brother, and me, cataloging her feelings in journals, meditating, and trying her best to put on a happy face for those around her. Even throughout the hardest time in her life, she was always trying to protect those she loved. She fought to make our lives as normal as possible. She fought debilitating symptoms and fatigue to take me prom dress shopping, cook new recipes with my brother, and help my dad prepare for his auditions. Cancer took a lot out of her, but she never let it affect her spirit. Even in the end, she was always smiling and fist-pumping when the Caps won the Stanley Cup. I know I'm going to miss watching sports with her, though you already know I'm going to cheer twice as hard for the Bears and the Caps now in her honor. I'm going to miss singing along to Taylor Swift in the car with her and going on mommy-daughter dates. I'm going to miss watching The Bachelor, sharing clothes, and helping her with her makeup. And I'm even going to miss her constant nagging reminders. Rest in peace to our clean house, because now I'm living with two of the messiest boys I know. That's you. But just like I promised her that I'd take care of our boys, I promise I'm going to try my best to keep things clean. I'm going to miss all the little things and all the big things and everything in between. Sorry. But I feel lucky that she is forever my mom. I know she'll be cheering me on, supporting me, and loving me more than I can ever know. Thank you.
Hello, friends, family, and those joining us on the live stream from California all the way to Paris. Elizabeth would kill me if I didn't express my gratitude first. Jamie, Eli, and I wanted to thank everybody who gave us support, a kind word or a story, a beautiful card, a delicious meal, or a generous donation. We cannot express enough how grateful we are for it. I love you all. Now, I'm really at a loss on how to start. I have so many stories that I want to tell you. How, when I first met Elizabeth at Studio Theater, I offered her a lifesaver as an excuse to talk. How we became friends. How I felt on our first date after years of being friend-zoned. Walking around the National Cathedral. How on her second date, I was blown away by her passion for colonial inauguration, where she used theater as a tool for education and change. How I read her guide for living the road less traveled, our crazy, lovely wedding, the birth of our miracle baby Jamie, the arrival of our beautiful son Eli, how I changed and grew as a man by her love. But as I write this, I hear her say to me, "Whoa there, Mr. Personality Disorder." There's a whole lot of I in that opening. What about me? Bam. Just like that, I knew I had to put my narcissism aside and share her passion, empathy, and love. In the middle of our cancer journey, Elizabeth was journaling about these little candles and a Buddha statue displayed on our living room windowsill. Life is off balance. Not clean looking, challenging, she wrote. But the Buddha is the tallest thing in the windowsill. Buddha is between the two candles, making his presence the focus. He's the symbol. He's the one reminding us that we are strong, individually and as a family unit. We will survive this because we have inner power. It's a choice to let go, trust, and be present. Great reminder, so comforting. Be present. Take her advice. Be present in the moment. I try and live up to her words every day. Nope, not going to cry. I was saving my tears for the big dramatic finale. The director mind directs, and the actor body does whatever it wants. All of the messages on Facebook and in cards were a gift to us. We were reading them to her as they came in. I wanted to copy all the ones that made me cry, but there were too many. So instead, I chose to focus on these words. Inspiring, example of the kind of wife, mother, woman, and warrior we now model ourselves after. Beauty and kindness and truth. My students are better because of you. Humor, courage, wisdom, and pure sassiness. Defiant positivity, love, passion for teaching positivity and creativity. Life-changing warmth, encouragement, and dedication. Mom, beacon of wonder. My mentor, my protector, my challenger, my cheerleader, and my friend. Passionate, vibrant, and caring, my second Korean mother. Beautiful artist, teacher, friend, and overall great human, she gave the gift of herself, her talent, and her spirit. Grace, infectious energy and creative support. Spunk and tenacity. Compassion, guidance, and acceptance, constant source of energy and joy. You gave of yourself when others didn't understand the value of your work, and that didn't stop you. This one might be my favorite. Master of life. Over and over, certain words are repeated. Passion, mom, love. Elizabeth was all those things to thousands of people and more. I stand in awe of how she touched people and changed their lives. How did Elizabeth accomplish this? I've been thinking about this for weeks, and I've come to the conclusion that her secret was love. She wanted to connect to people, and her love made them open up to her. Once inside their defenses, she found ways to make little improvements, a little confidence here, a little openness there. She was always present, in the moment, and authentic. I remember at the height of a breakup with an ex, my ex said, You're emotionally unavailable, closed, and uncommunicative. I immediately thought, great use of the rule of 3. Hey, wait a minute. Don't they all mean the same thing? They did, and they were all true. Elizabeth fought her way past all my barriers and defenses. She said, I know you can, and I'm willing to wait. To a point. Finally, when I opened up and expressed my love, I thanked her for teaching me, and she said, I knew you had it in you. We just had to get you to see it. That was one of her great gifts. Peering into us and seeing what we could be with a little support and encouragement. How do I know Elizabeth's secret was love? Because she taught me how to love. The Road Less Traveled says, I have defined love as the will to extend oneself for the purpose of nurturing one's own and another's spiritual growth. She willed herself to love all of us. True love is not a feeling by which we are overwhelmed. It's a committed, thoughtful decision. She made the decision to love all of us every day. One of her favorite projects as a director at GW was Almost Maine. She just connected with the play. Her theme was to connect and to love. That was her, wasn't it? One of my favorite scenes in her production was Getting It Back. Gail shows up at Lendel's door demanding all of her love back and brings in all of his love to return to him. Bags and bags of love. When all of the love is piled on the stage, Lendel's love for Gail dwarfs Gail's for Lendel's. Lendl only has a small little red pouch. But he said he had so much of Gail's love that he didn't know what to do with it, so he had to turn it into a wedding ring. Oh, I know, right? Gail's reaction in that moment killed me every time. Now, I'm going to be like Gail and ask all of you for the love Elizabeth gave you back. Gather it up in your hearts, then transform it like Lendl. Now, I really don't want it back. Jamie, Eli, and I have plenty of Elizabeth's love. I want you to take Elizabeth's love and pass it on to someone in your circle who needs it, whether it be a jolt of confidence, a moment of full attention, or some empathetic mentoring or mothering. Pay it forward, and you will help us carry on Elizabeth's legacy of love. To my love, I miss you. I wake up every morning and I'm so thankful that you agreed to marry me. I'm grateful for all the love you gave me, for teaching me empathy, and for getting me to open up. I love you with all my heart. Thank you all for coming. P.S. Let us know how it goes. Read The Road Less Traveled and wear sunscreen.
For many of you who taught or worked with Elizabeth, you'll know that this is one of her favorite songs, and she often would share this with her students, with her colleagues, whether that be at ETC camp or GW. And so we thought, as Stan and Jamie and Eli and the family walk out, we would send them on their way with a sing-along. So the words are in your program. Please sing along with us, Lean on Me.
Sometimes in our lives
you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. If there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry, I'm right up the road. I'll share your load if you just call me.
Lean on me.
Lean on me. If you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll have you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean.
One more time, just the voices. Lean on me.
me.